Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The government has signalled its intention to have a dialogue with stakeholders over the provisions in the amended Road Traffic Act. Senator Royal Reid, who led government business in the upper house for the day, indicated that they would not be debating the final 6 amendments coming from the lower house in today's session. The senator told the Senate that this was to allow for more public education on the matter. Friday's sitting was attended by representatives from the transport sector, including JATU President Louis Barton. Before the sitting, Mr. Barton had discussions with the senators. Heavy rains triggered extensive flooding in the town of Santa Cruz yesterday. The flood event comes months after the drains in the towns were fixed. This has raised questions about how the work was done on the drains. TVJ's Shane Masters files this report.
The scene in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, after heavy rains on Thursday afternoon.
Water get way pressure. Over there, so water tall. Down on the road about, you see it, all down the flood road said here.
Santa Cruz, Dr. Rock Road, Institution Drive and Main Street were all underwater. Commuters were left stranded and vehicular traffic slowed to a crawl. Motorists were also delayed for up to 2 hours.
I came to do some business and only to realize that I could hardly make it over here. So we have to be waiting now, and a lot of us have been waiting for the water to recede, because without the water receding, we cannot move. The volume of water just too heavy.
Businesses on Institution Drive and Dr. Rock Road were not spared.
Water just come in, just come up and just come in the shop, and the whole area just flood the water. And when you can't run everything water just come in the shop.
The flood has raised many questions, as this is the same area where a massive drain repairing operation was conducted 2 months ago. The residents are now calling on the NWA to revisit the draining system and expand it.
Then the drain, another drain, one big city, one tunnel, you want to carry water off the road. You see me? Then the local drain, they can't hold no water. Thing come back from the road.
The volume of water we are come from up at the hills, from up like Malvern and Burnground and them places. No drainage system can't control the water here. The only solution we see is like to build one of them big gully, so when the water come down, you can't hold the water, because if you look and see the depth, the height of the water, and the wideness of it, no drainage system now gonna work. So if I say it go, we are gonna have this problem right through and through forever. It's not gonna solve.
Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Craft vendors in Runaway Bay, St. Anne are this afternoon up in arms following the destruction of their stalls last weekend. Despite being given repeated notices to vacate the premises, the vendors say they needed more time to find another space to do their trade. The details in this report.
Over 30 shops that were owned and occupied by craft vendors on a beachfront property in Runaway Bay, St. Anne, were demolished by agents of the Urban Development Corporation UDC last weekend. The vendors say they were given notice to vacate the property, but felt that more time should have been given.
They give us notice 2-3 times, so we must find somewhere to go or move up the land. They come in before there, Friday morning, eat down the shop them and damage our goods and take away some of our goods. And leave us stranded, so what do they go and settle somewhere, or they go and build back some shop give us, or they go and give us some money for the goods and damage our shop.
President of the Runaway Bay Craft Vendors Association, Ansel Shand, says with the destruction of their stalls, he is unsure of what his next move will be.
This what happened should never happen. It's like robbing in the night, thief in the night. We came Friday morning and see all our stuff on the ground. Zinc taken away, all the wood taken away. That's total disrespectful. If it's government sent it's meant to do that, we don't respect that.
Another vendor, Paulette Mirage, also spoke of the injustice meted out to the vendors.
This is where we do our living. We know nowhere else to go. We do not know what else to do. This is just our daily living.
However, a source from the UDC confirmed that the vendors were given at least 3 notices from as early as March this year. But they say the vendors made no effort to vacate the premises. The source added that the development of the property is part of the corporation's continued improvement plan. Hence, this urgent plea to the government.
We're asking and begging and pleading who responsible to do this, to help us. Give us some place to hustle, something, some craft market, something in Runaway Bay, because we have to continue doing what we have to do. Even if you rent us some place, we're willing to pay. Remember, we are poor people, we are not rich.
More TVJ News.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that he is working to ensure that Jamaica reaches full employment. He was speaking at a town hall meeting in Montego Bay, St. James last night. The Prime Minister pointed out that there are other countries in the Caribbean that have achieved full employment, and he wants Jamaica to follow that trend.
There are countries in this region, in the Caribbean, that have full employment. Trinidad has full employment to the point where they import labor. And Jamaica can do the same. We can get to the point where we have provided employment for all our citizens, but because our national economic environment is such, businesses choose to locate here. And that is where we're heading.
Mr. Holness said the country's economy is growing and he wants Jamaicans to reap the benefits. He said that his government is working to reduce income inequality.
It is very important that that is the case to ensure that there is fairness and equity in the society, because the historical context of Jamaica is inequality. The haves and the have-not. And I can't be your Prime Minister and allow the widening gap of income inequality. No, the Jamaica Labour Party government must ensure that growth is fair and equitable and that every single Jamaican benefits from the economic growth of the country.
As controversy continues to swirl around the $17 million Welcome to Montego Bay sign, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has also added his voice to the discussion. Speaking at a town hall meeting in Montego Bay yesterday, he noted that the cost of the sign is exorbitant.
Sound a little bit high, yes, I'm not going to deny. But from what I have seen, I think the minister has done the right thing to ask for a review to make sure that what they plan to build is appropriate and is in keeping with the cost as advertised. Right? Bear in mind that I've looked at other cities that are putting up signs. I believe it's Miami, Florida, putting up a big sign, and I gather they're paying $3 million US for it. So we have to bear all these things in context. We don't have the kind of money there. So we have to be frugal, but at the same time, we have to make our thing look good.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett told our news centre earlier this week that he has ordered a review into the cost of the sign. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister today toured the temporary 3 Mile bypass this morning. He says, from all indications, the flyover at 3 miles seems to be ahead of target.
The work so far on the ramps, which we are on now, seem to have been progressing pretty smoothly and rapidly, actually. The pillars are almost all in place. They're all in place. So all that is left now is to complete the ramp and then to lay the beams and then put the surface on, which is quite admirable that we're able to do this at this rapid pace. Clearly,
the Prime Minister also says the new bypass that will take the traffic off the Spanish Town Road through Seaview Gardens and onto Marcus Garvey Drive is almost ready.
Very close to completion. I would say you're about 90% completed. To observe the progress being made on the new roadways, the new interchange, I suspect that is the term that we will use to describe them, an interchange at the Portia Simpson Miller Square.
The more community centres we have, the lower the crime rate across Jamaica. That's the belief of at least one stakeholder who raised concerns about the increasing number of youth getting involved in criminal activities. Speaking at a forum held recently in Clarendon, Sergeant Kerry-Ann Mailer Wallace, who is attached to the Clarendon Community Safety and Security Branch, said the largest number of persons involved in crime and violence are youths. She believes a lack of social intervention, such as community centers, are a major cause of youth crimes.
So if we have somewhere to exert their energies, then we'll have less crime, right? Because they said the devil find work for idle hands. So this year can serve as a crime prevention. The youths will come here and they will do something positive. We don't want to have them on the streets because that is what causes the problems. They don't have anything to do, so they find bad things to do.
Sergeant Wallace added that the community centers can help residents, especially the youth, to focus on various skills.
So having this community center, it can be used for so many things. You know, they can start a little business, they can do some entertainment, they can occupy themselves, right? So in Clarendon here, we've had a lot of bad experiences, and we hope that can change with this community center and others.
In news overseas, Turkey's foreign minister has accused US President Donald Trump of turning a blind eye in the high-profile murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This accusation comes a day after the US leader doubled down in his defense of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
In a stunning White House press release exonerating Saudi Arabia in the murder of Washington Post writer Jamal Khashoggi, President Trump seemed to dismiss reports indicating Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was involved in the killing, writing, "Maybe he did and maybe he didn't." The statement coming just before the president was to receive a report from the CIA about the murder.
We're going to have a report on Tuesday, and it'll be very complete.
A senior U.S. official says the CIA has assessed the Crown Prince directed the murder of Khashoggi. And just a few days ago, Vice President Pence said everyone involved would be held to account.
The United States is absolutely committed to ensuring that all of those responsible are held accountable.
The president has been steadfast in his commitment to the Saudis as allies, and this is just the latest show of support.
At the same time, we do have an ally, and I want to stick with an ally that in many ways has been very good.
The statement points to the economic ties between the two countries. Quote, the kingdom agreed to spend and invest $450 billion in the United States. This is a record amount of money, but the State Department says the U.S. has only received $14.5 billion as part of the deal. The statement coming after weeks of measured rhetoric about the role the Crown Prince may have played in the murder, going against evidence from the American intelligence community.
He told me that he had nothing to do with it. He told me that, I would say, maybe 5 times.
It's not the first time the president has gone against intelligence agencies.
There will be a new ICC Women's World T20 champion after host nation West Indies lost their semi-final. The West Indies lost to Australia by 71 runs in Thursday's first semi-final at North Sound in Antigua. Spencer Darlington has a report.
Captain Stefani Taylor and the Windies women were hoping to remain on course and move a step closer to retaining the title they won 2 years ago, while the Aussies were aiming to avenge their loss to the Windies in the 2016 final. It was Taylor who won the toss and invited the Aussies to bat. Player of the match, Alicia Healy, led the way for Australia with a 38-ball knock of 46, while sharing a second wicket stand of 51 with captain Meg Lanning, who weighed in with 31. Rachel Haynes chipped in with an unbeaten 25 as the Aussies produced a late flurry, which yielded 47 runs of the last 5 overs for a total of 142 for 5 in their 20 overs. There was a wicket apiece for Taylor along with Shakira Selman, Hayley Matthews, Affie Fletcher and Deandra Dottin. The Windies began chasing 143 in disastrous fashion, losing their first 2 wickets in successive deliveries, as openers Hayley Matthews and Deandra Dottin both went cheaply with the score on 15. The defending champions never recovered from their horrible start, as Taylor, who made 16, was the only player to get to double figures. There were 2 wickets each for Elise Perry, Delissa Kimmins and Ashley Gardner as the home team crumbled for a mere 71 in 17.3 overs.
In my opinion, I just believe that we didn't give ourselves a chance. Spend some time at the wicket. I believe that this wicket was the great opportunity to do that. Spend some time at the wicket. Is a bit slow, but I find that in the second half, I find the ball was coming on a bit better. So I believe if we spent time on the wicket, it would have been different.
Just really proud of the girls' effort. I think it was a really tricky wicket out there, and the way we just fought really hard with the bat, and the bowlers just executed again and again. And yeah, really proud of that win. It's that meant a lot to the group. Spencer
Darlington, TVJ Sports.
Meanwhile, England defeated India by 8 wickets in the second semi-final of the doubleheader at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. And the battle for another schoolboy title this season will continue when Petersfield and Charlemont meet today in the final of the ISUP Ben Francis Cup at the Juicy Beef Complex in Clarendon. Petersfield got by St James High 4-0 in the quarter-final and 3-0 against Port Antonio in the semi-final to advance to the final. Meanwhile, Charlemont beat Magotty 4-0 and former Ben Francis Cup champions Lennon 1-0 to secure their spot. The game will kick off at 3 p.m. And that's the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.